reasoning behind the initial strikes on Iran.
Yesterday, you told us that Israel was going to strike Iran, and that's why we needed to get involved. Today, the president said that Iran was going to get.
Yeah, your statement is false. So that's not what I was asked very specifically. Were you there yesterday?
Yes, I asked a question.
No, were you the one that? Because somebody asked me a question and said, "Did we go in because of Israel?" And I said, "You were asking me that. You that follow?" And I said, "No." I told you this had to happen anyway. The president made a decision, and the decision he made was that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ballistic missile program, that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ability to conduct these attacks.
And take a look at this fresh new CBS News polling we have for you. It found a majority of Americans feel the president has not clearly explained his goals for this operation in Iran. Anthony Salvanto will be here in just a few minutes to walk us through how Americans are feeling about the war and other questions that were asked. The government has now identified 4 out of 6 Americans killed by an Iranian attack in Kuwait. You see them here: Captain Cody Cork, Sergeant First Class Nicole Amor, Sergeant First Class Noah Tiens, and Sergeant Declan Cody. They range in age from 20 to 42. Professors and classmates of Sergeant Cody held a moment of silence yesterday at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. Cody was studying cybersecurity and taking online classes there while deployed. Now we've got team coverage on all of this for you this morning. Remy Inocencio is tracking the fighting in the Middle East. But let's begin with CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand, who joins us live at the White House. Natalie, good morning. President Trump took questions for the first time yesterday since this war broke out. What did he reveal, and how are lawmakers reacting?
Good morning. Earlier comments in which Caitlin asked about this. His response talked about U.S. information that Israel was going to strike, prompting concerns about a retaliatory attack that could harm U.S. assets and troops. So the president was asked, did Israel force your hand? And he said, no, if anything, I forced their hand. He said, based on the way negotiations were going, he thought that Iran was going to strike first. And Rubio yesterday on the Hill and trying to kind of walk of his comments again said yesterday, Tuesday, that once the president were not going to work, that the threat was untenable, the decision made to strike. We also heard yesterday from senior administration officials really detailing why they thought negotiations were going so poorly, despite progress that was touted by Iran and mediators in those indirect talks. The administration arguing that Iran was trying to rebuild its nuclear program and just trying to buy time. Now, lawmakers who received all member briefings yesterday by the Secretary of State and other top officials, military leaders, remain largely divided largely along party lines. And this happens as they're gearing up for a war powers resolution vote that Democrats have been pushing for. House Speaker Mike Johnson said that would be dangerous. Take a listen.
Iran is firing almost seemingly indiscriminately at targets. They're trying to intimidate America. They're trying to test our resolve, and the idea that there's some members of this legislative body that would play along with that plays right into the hands of the enemy, and I think it's shameful.
This is a war of choice by President Trump. There was no imminent threat against the American people, against American facilities or persons. It is time for Congress to get involved, to retake its constitutional authority, to return the American people back into the driver's seat on matters of war and peace.
Now, on the Senate side, one Democratic lawmaker said yesterday after the briefing that he's increasingly fearful U.S. boots could go on the ground. The Senate is expected to take this war powers resolution vote later today to try and limit further military action in Iran. But because of the large Republican opposition by GOP leaders, this is not expected to move forward. It is important to note, Errol, though, that the War Powers Act of 1973 does limit troops from remaining for more than 60 days without congressional authorization.
Interesting. All right, Natalie Brand of the White House. Thanks, Natalie. We turn now to CBS News foreign correspondent Remy Inocencio. He's in our London bureau. Remy, good morning. I understand Israel launched a fresh round of strikes on Tehran overnight. So where does the fighting stand right now?
Yes, Errol, good to see you. Before I get to that, we've got some new CBS News reporting just in that CIA sites in Iraq and Saudi Arabia have been hit by drones. This is according to two sources, one in the intelligence community and one in the Gulf. This happened over the past few days, now coming to light. At the site in Iraq, we understand that no Americans were present. At the Saudi site, no casualties were reported, but no mention here of Americans. For now, the CIA and the Saudi embassy are not commenting, so we will get you more on that as we know. As for Israel and your question, the military says that it has begun, yes, broad-scale strikes on Tehran this morning, hitting the security headquarters of what's known as the Basij. And this is a paramilitary force tied to Iran's Revolutionary Guards, which protects the clerical ruler. So Israel continuing its efforts to Iran's command and control. Also, an Israeli F-35 shot down an Iranian jet, a Yak-30, and this was over the skies of Tehran. And this is the first shoot down of a manned fighter by that kind of Israeli jet. And it shows now that Israel can, in fact, operate directly over the capital. Separately, there is another front in this. Israel launching airstrikes on Lebanon, warning people to evacuate southern Beirut. And remember, the Dahia neighborhood is in southern Beirut. This is Hezbollah's leadership stronghold there. Local officials say that dozens of people have been killed in just the past few days. The IDF says that it plans to, what it says, intensify its strikes on Iran even more in the coming days.
And what is the political situation and social situation inside Iran right now, Rami?
Sure. What we're seeing reportedly coming out of Tehran and the pictures we're seeing is that many people have fled. And this is a city normally of 10 million people. It's now being described as a ghost town. People who are still there, largely staying indoors because of those airstrikes. And we're getting a new death toll update. Across Iran, the death toll has now jumped from about 800 from yesterday to nearly 1,100 overnight. This is according to an Iranian human rights watchdog called Harana. And we're also learning that the funeral that was planned for today for Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has now been postponed in just the past couple hours. State media had said it would begin today, last 3 days, but now they're saying because of what's called unprecedented presence of mourners, basically a lot of people, means that a new date will now be announced. We know Khamenei killed Saturday. State media says now as well today. The Islamic Republic. But Sanam Vakil, an Iran expert at Chatham House here in London, told me that the system of mullah rule may be changing. Take a listen.
I don't think Iran's quote-unquote clerical rule is going to survive. I'm of the view that the death of Ali Khamenei is ushering in a new phase of governance inside Iran that won't be legitimized through clerical ideology or religious ideology towards a military.
And she tells me there is a short list for the next Supreme Leader, and we're also seeing from Reuters right now that the late Supreme Leader's son, one of four, his name is Mojtaba Khamenei, has survived recent attacks, and he is in the running possibly as the next likely successor, and with potentially the next target on his back, Harold.
All right, Rami Inocencio with the latest developments there for us out of our London bureau. Rami, thanks. Now, the goals for this operation in Iran are unclear to most Americans. That's according to our latest round of CBS News polling. Take a look at this. There is significant skepticism out there as well. 45% of Americans say the U.S. against Iran will actually make America less safe, while 31% it will make the U.S. more safe. Anthony Salvanto has more on what else we're learning.
Most Americans in our latest CBS News poll tell us they don't think the Trump administration has yet clearly explained what the U.S. goals in Iran are. Now, why is that important? Well, I asked people, what do you think the U.S. goals are? And there's a very wide range of views here. Some say it's to change Iran's leadership, to stop Iran's missile and military capabilities, to prevent Iran from producing nuclear weapons. But what really stands out is how long people think this might go on. Look at this range of things. Just a quarter think it's going to be weeks or days, but Another quarter think it's going to be months, others think years, and some are just not sure. That's important because it's closely tied to whether or not people support it overall. So take a look at this. People think it's going to be more disapproval goes up, the longer you think it's going to go on. Net, you do see by party overall approval from Republicans, from the president's Republican base, but less so from independents and Democrats. And then that comes out overall. I'm Anthony To in New York.
Thanks, Anthony. China is bracing for a severe economic disruption as the war with Iran expands. The disruption to the oil trade in the Strait of Hormuz will be a major pain point for Beijing. According to 2025 data, Iran has sold up to 80% of its oil to China. Overall, the majority of the country's energy supply comes from the Persian Gulf. CBS News foreign correspondent Anna Coren spoke with the president of the Center for China and Globalization. He says it's not just Beijing that will be impacted by this.
This is really a man-made kind of a crisis.
Some say that this war in Iran is part of President Trump's grand strategy to contain China.
President Trump is doing self-harm as well because it hurts European countries, it hurts all G7 countries, it hurts the U.S. as well. Not just China get hurt. So the whole economy is coming down, and then that's going to affect everybody. So we're not really living in an isolated environment. It's really intertwined.
It's not just oil that makes Iran valuable to China. Our Lindsay Reiser spoke about that with Zenab Rabua on the Daily Report last night. She's a research fellow at the Hudson Institute and a writer for the Free Press, and shares the parent company, Paramount Skydance, on CBS News.
One thing that I think Washington does not talk enough about until really yesterday when Secretary Rubio made it very clear that China is building and built the missile program of Iran. Chinese firms supplied guidance systems, they supplied precision components for really decades. And they do so because a very aggressive Iran is a very useful Iran, so that the Chinese can reach out to Gulf countries, which are U.S. allies, and play the mediators. And we've seen that with how the Chinese brokered an Iran-Saudi normalization agreement.
As you may recall, President Trump has a high-stakes summit with President Xi Jinping at the end of this month. Some analysts say that Washington now has a leg up heading into that summit.